All right, hello and welcome to another Expert Insight interview. My name is John Golan from Sales Pop, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM. Here.
Want to maximize your productivity potential? Discover a wealth of free tools and guides. Click the links in the video description below to access top-notch resources for streamlining tasks, managing time, and boosting efficiency. Don't miss out. Click now and unlock your productivity superpowers.
In lovely blue-skied, sunny San Diego. A bit quiet outside, as you can imagine, as we're all in full lockdown here in California. So wherever you're tuning in from around the world, hope you're staying safe. Hope you're actually enjoying this maybe unexpected family time. And I'm joined by Eric Bloom, who is in Massachusetts. How are you doing, Eric?
Good, thanks. Now, I'm all jealous of the nice warm weather you have, though. I don't know if I want to answer your questions.
I'll send you some pictures. So anyway, Eric is the executive director of the IT Management and Leadership Institute, a TEDx speaker, former president of the National Speakers Association, and the Amazon #1 best-selling author of Productivity-Driven Success, Hidden Secrets of Organizational Efficiency. And he's also written 4 other books as well. So today we're going to talk about influence and productivity in the workplace. I mean, obviously under different circumstances, this might have been a little bit of a different conversation. But today, especially given the situation we're in, and as companies are grappling with how to remote work and all of this kind of thing, what would your advice to them and how to be productive and how to organize themselves and approach the situation for maximum productivity and to kind of keep everything running as smoothly as possible?
Okay, that's a great question. Let me answer it first for, say, the managers and then for the individual workers. From a management perspective, the best way to think about working virtually from a productivity perspective is to do exactly those great business principles that you're doing when you're with people. Yeah. The difference is that when you're at distance, whether they're working at home or whether it's just, quite frankly, a virtual team, is that management becomes much of the techniques that you would do just by default, like saying hello to someone walking in the hallway and asking them for status on a project. Has to be much more tactical, strategic, and you have to be disciplined to actually do it. On one side, it's really little things, like if you go to a meeting and someone's virtual, or now maybe many of your team people are virtual, you just have to remember to mail them the agenda because you can't hand it out to everybody in the meeting. Mm-hmm. So look at virtual management techniques as just good management techniques on steroids. The reason being is that you just need to be more deliberate in those deliveries.
Yeah, and before you go on to individuals, because I think what you just outlined there is whether your organization is already virtual or whether your organization is virtual right now, or whether your organization is going to remain virtual or go back to being more physically located. Everything that Eric just outlined there are things you should be doing anyway. And think of the product, even if you go back into a physical environment later, getting to the point, being strategic, having agendas before meetings, like eliminating all that waste or the not preparing properly because I can do it. Yeah, I can walk into the meeting and I can write the agenda up on the board, but you don't give people the time to prepare. So these are all great things that you should do anyway. And I think it's a great time to learn these productivity enhancers.
Yes, in fact, it's interesting that where moving now to virtual teams is most difficult is for new managers because they have not yet developed the fine business processes and techniques that they've internalized over a number of years as management people, that now they're just sort of redeploying the delivery of the concepts as opposed to learning the concepts.
Absolutely. So for the individual.
For an individual, it's really interesting. First of all, is that if you haven't worked at home, for any length of time, there are lots of issues that are against you with it. Say, for example, now all the kids are home too. So if you have little kids running around, if you have 4 dogs that bark at every truck that's going down the street, you may not have an office set up that's properly prepared, preparing you to do it. So you're trying to do it at the kitchen table, which means you're moving, like the oranges to the left, and the dirty dishes to the right to plunk your laptop in the middle of it. It can be really, can really degrade from your ability to maintain your concentration. So as a result of that is that when working at home, the first thing you need to do is find yourself a really good spot. And it's a spot that you only do for work. The reason is, in fact, they even teach this to high school kids, is always do your homework in the same place. Doesn't matter where that place is, as long as it's appropriate. You know, there's good lighting and ventilation and all that kind of thing. You're in a comfortable chair. But the reason is if that's the only thing you do at that spot, when you then go and sit there, is that your mind is mentally prepared for doing that task here. So that's a good way to go about it. The other thing is that, you know, if you're introverted or, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, sorry, I just want to underline what you just said there, because I think it is critically important. And I think for people working at home for the first time, I think the other thing is you got to have a conversation with your family. If you have a family, if you live in your own fine, or your roommate, if you're sharing, whatever it is, just have a conversation and just say, okay, I have to work. This isn't a mini vacation. And yeah, I understand little kids. It's tough, but if you can figure out a way of explaining to them to, you know, mommy or daddy, whatever is working. I think that's critical. And as you say, finding the right place. And I would also say it's critical that you prepare for work as you would normally. So get up, would you walk into the office unshowered, unshaven, in a pair of dirty sweats, right, and put your feet up on the table? Probably not. So maybe some people have a business like that, and if so, well, then continue to do that. But for the majority of people, act like you would as if you were in the office, because if you don't properly prepare yourself for the workday, you are in a different mind space, and it doesn't matter how disciplined you are. If you're sitting there in sweats and you haven't showered, you're not in work mode.
Absolutely. 100, great advice. One other thing let me also pass along is that obviously John and I are very used to being on video. Look at our backgrounds. Mine is blank. I literally have a full blank wall behind me. I have a stand-up desk. My wife told me that sitting was the new smoking, so I had to get one of these. I love it. But because I have a blank wall behind me, I can actually go up and down, and my background looks exactly the same. Look at John's background. You know, it's specifically defined as branding for his firm. Now, so the reason that I tell you this is when you go home and you're going to be in a video meeting with your boss, check to see what's on the wall behind you. You know, don't make sure that there's nothing up there that you wouldn't want hanging in your cube. Everything from old clothes hanging to dry to posters that would be very inappropriate, let me say, for the workspace. Another thing is most people from home, their desk is against a wall. You know, and they stand there and they work, which means when the video is facing them, guess what it's looking? Potentially, certainly to the rest of the room and potentially down the hallway. So it's really important for you to also, if you have family members, you know, in the house, to let them know that you're on video. Because the last thing in the world that you would want while you're on video with your team members is to have your spouse walking, you know, scantily clad down the hallway. So, I mean, it sounds like ha-ha, but I mean, that's enormously embarrassing stuff. On the brighter side is if your dog or cat hops up on your lap and shows, looks into the screen, nobody's going to care.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I actually have for my home office, I have a light. It's that sticks on the door. It costs about $3. I can't remember. It's battery operated, and I turn it on to red when something's happening, so people know not to come into the room to disturb me. So I just think little things like this. And your advice, yes, make sure, but yeah, you don't have to have a background like this. You can have a blank wall like Eric does. Just find somewhere. And I think the other important thing is, now that you're remote, and say you're a salesperson and you're prospecting or whatever it is, even if it's only for a couple of moments at the beginning, switch on your camera, humanize the interaction, and then you can switch it off afterwards. But I'm telling you, the person on the other end will really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Particularly if you've never met them in person before.
Yeah.
When you're on video with someone for the first time, it just makes it much more familiar. Like, for example, John and I, let's say that we worked for months, just emailing back and forth, an occasional phone call. The mere fact that we're doing this webinar together is next time we just email back and forth, it's going to feel more personal because we've had that, connect the name with the face moment.
Yeah. And I would just say to people who go, oh, I don't feel comfortable going on camera. I've got just one piece of advice for you. Get over it.
It's true. No one likes how they look on camera, and no one likes how they sound on audio.
Exactly. So just get over it, because it's, I guarantee you, the upside is, you'll be surprised at the upside of actually connecting and putting on your camera. Like I said, you don't have to keep it on for the whole time. So what are some other piece of advice you would have on how to operate as productively as possible?
Okay. Is that for those people who don't use to-do lists or things along that line, what I'd say, particularly in this environment, that's good to do. There's a number of different, let me just actually back up a step even and say, if you've never studied time management techniques, that can drive your personal productivity more than anything.
Right.
Whether it's something that I've come up with, which is, like task, which is like 4 zones of personal productivity, where you're either at the top of your game, you're alert but not creative, sluggish, or basically keeping awake. Or if you look at things like basically the way that it works is you take a task based on your current level of energy. Or if you look at the Eisenhower, it's a 4 square, where it basically says, what's important. Is it important or non-important, or is it urgent or non-urgent? And it helps you from a prioritization perspective figure out what to work on. But the bottom line, a lot of people will say to me, oh, I don't know what to work on first. Everything is urgent. Well, the truth is, if everything is urgent or everything is highest priority, nothing is prioritized.
Exactly.
So find processes that work for you to basically figure out either what to work on when, or to tie to what is the most important from a prioritization perspective, as it ties to those people you're serving, your boss, your customers, etc.
Exactly. And then I think a good thing always is to validate, is to go back every so often, like call up your manager or whatever, communicate with them and say, okay, is this still the correct prioritization for what I should be doing? And realize that, priorities do change, but you're 100% correct. If you can't prioritize things and everything is equally urgent, then nothing is urgent. But I love your idea about organizing yourself. And I think this is key, especially for people new to working remotely for however long you may be working remotely, is that you have to be disciplined and organize your time. So as we were saying about when you're picking your space, the family room where the TV is on, at the best, because you may be tempted to switch it on and put on the closed captions and think, oh yeah, I can multitask. Well, you can't. Let's not fool ourselves. But I do think that time management is critical, and try to be as disciplined as possible, because the temptation is like, oh, I'll take a break here, I'll take a break there, oh, maybe I'll go out early and I'll do this or whatever. The more loose you get with your time, the less productive you're going to be.
Absolutely. Another technique is to really, if you're working at home, is know yourself. There are those people, like, for example, if you're not motivated, you'll always find something else to do. You're working, but, I'll walk the dog again, or, I'll do this, or, I'll do that. Oh, I think the laundry is done, and then, you're half an hour away. That's one extreme. The other extreme is if you're extremely disciplined and maybe have a little too much, work orientation toward yourself, it's really, really easy for you to just always work. 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after dinner, you say to your spouse, oh, I just have one email that I have to send. You walk 2 doors down, you get in your office, and next thing you know, it's 11:30 at night. So the type of discipline is from both perspectives. And you know what? If you're home more with your kids, you want to work and such, take a little bit of an advantage of it too. That's okay. Yeah. Instead of talking to someone in the, at the water cooler, so to speak. Not that I've ever seen people actually talk at a water cooler, but that kind of thing. You spend that time with your kids, let it be a mental release from your work, so that when you go back 5 minutes later, you're actually more productive.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think knowing yourself is absolutely critical. And I think if you're one of those people who says, oh, yeah, I just can't work from home, and you're working from home right now, again, get over it. Just figure out how you can do it. It may not be your preference for the long run. But also, I think to your point is just let people know. Because here's the thing, I think the biggest issue with remote working is, if we're in an office together and I can glance over there and I can say, oh, there's Eric's in his office, he's doing something. Maybe you have your phone on Do Not Disturb, but I can see you. In a remote environment, people just, I don't know, human nature, sometimes they just tend to think the worst, like, oh, I tried to call Eric on Slack and I couldn't get him. I bet you he's goofing off. right? So the easy thing to do that is to let people know what you're doing. Say, I blocked off this time right now because I'm writing a proposal, right, or whatever. Or I've decided to take an early lunch. I'm going to go from this time to that time. The more you communicate, the less issues come up.
Absolutely. How did you know I was goofing off? No, just kidding. But yeah, absolutely. People will feel that a lot, particularly people that are very either conscientious about their job or people who feel like their job is a little bit in peril.
Mm-hmm.
You know, does the boss know that I'm working? So just, drop emails to people through the day, just don't send like 10 in the morning. If you have emails you have to send out throughout the day, send them throughout the day. Tie into Slack a little bit. But you're right, is those kind of things just to make you feel better about yourself when, quite frankly, my mother-in-law has this great expression that I love. It's don't worry about the 10,000 eyes that are not upon you.
That's that is excellent advice. And yeah, I think that's great advice. And just make sure that you're being productive and make sure that you're communicating and that that you're available. And when you're not available, let people know that you're not available, and then everything starts to run smoothly. And one of the things as I was saying to Eric before we come on air, our company, we've worked remotely for 6 or 7 years now. And we did it as a deliberate choice at the beginning. And we have found, and this is just some encouragement, we have found that some of the connections are deeper. We're more efficient. I am more connected and more both professionally and even personally in some degrees with people I've worked with remotely than people I sat in offices with for 7 years.
Yeah, I would totally agree. We're a virtual firm also. Have an admin person that's only about 3 towns over from us, right. But I see her physically maybe once a year at our holiday party. My virtual assistants are in the Philippines. I have trainers at different locations around the country, some of which I've never met. But you're right. If you do it right and you meet with them on video and you just are willing to share a little bit about yourself as you would if you're in the cubes next to each other, you really can develop true, strong professional and in some cases even, personal relationships. Some of these people I feel I know better than my next door neighbor.
Yeah, and to be honest, with the collaboration tools nowadays, even if it's just Google Docs or whatever, I mean, I find I can work with people across the world very quickly. We just get on together, get something done, fix it up, move on, and it's extremely, extremely efficient.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, Eric, this has been great. Before we go, is there any last tips you'd like to give to people on how to stay productive?
Good question. Let me say is that take care of yourself too. Is that some people who want to be productive, they drive themselves really, really hard to be as productive as possible. Take a little time to recharge your batteries. If you're working on things as a knowledge worker where you're, more conceptual and strategic for those thinking, that actually works best when you're sitting down and you're relaxing. So understand that relaxation time, can still be of great value from a business perspective. Don't be one of those people that when you're relaxing, you feel guilty that you're not working. And when you're working, you feel guilty that you're not relaxing. Break that cycle and understand that both are important, not only to your health, but to your overall office productivity.
Yeah, that's great advice. And all of Eric's information will be in his contributor bio and links to his website. But before we go, Eric, just tell people a little bit more about yourself and what your organization does.
Oh, thank you. As you've heard, actually I have 2 organizations, but interestingly tied to both of our different topics. One is the IT Management and Leadership Institute, where we provide leadership and interpersonal communication type classes, primarily to technologists such as IT professionals. The new part of our company, which was great, it's actually officeinfluence.com, based on a book that I wrote. We have surveys, classes, etc., and assessments on how to enhance your office influence or your influence within the workplace.
Fantastic. All right, listen, this has been great, timely. So again, everybody listening and watching out there, stay safe, stay healthy, look after yourselves, look after your families. Listen, Eric, same to you. Stay safe, look after your loved ones, and thank you again for joining me this morning. My name is John Golan from Sales Pop Online Sales Magazine and Pipeline SEO. See you all for another expert interview really soon. Thank you.
Looking to save time and boost efficiency? Dive into a collection of free productivity tools and guides. Click the links below in the video description to get your hands on valuable resources for task management, time optimization, and more. Take control of your productivity journey. Click now.